friend nearly 50 years, Pastor Green. He and I were pastor in the same town in Nebraska. I was pastor of the Presbyterian Church, and he was pastor of the Pilgrim Holiness Church. We became friends, and we're still friends. We work together in Mexico, and I've asked Pastor Green to come and say a few words.
He and I have had some very fine arguments at times.
Quite right.
Pastor Green, you got him so confused he became a Baptist.
My wife and I, she was the lady at the desk book over there, probably have known John and Gladys longer than anyone else in the room except Linda. Carol. I had the finger pointed right there. Except Carol. When we got acquainted with them, Carol had just started to walk. I don't know. 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, somewhere along there. And we have been friends ever since. That was about 1943, wasn't it?
I think that's right.
1943. That's a long time, and so that sort of tells us how old it is. A couple of months ago, or whenever it was, that John and Gladys first mentioned to us that they were going to have this little celebration. I learned after we got home, we live up in Vista now, and I learned after we got home that an old lady in our church in Vista was going to celebrate her 90th birthday today. This evening, her sons were going to have a sit-down dinner, and this was in the planning. John and Gladys were going to have their 50th wedding anniversary this afternoon, and then we were to go and participate in that sit-down dinner for this elderly lady, Ruby Hayes, to celebrate her 90th birthday. When I found out that Ruby's function and your function was on the same day today, I had a strange premonition that one of them would not be here for this function. And I was afraid it would be John, because I had been with him when the future looked quite bleak. But 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, the couple had come by Ruby's place in Vista to pick her up to bring her to church. Didn't get an answer. They got a neighbor. He went in, and she had passed away in the night. So it was Ruby Hayes who didn't make it. John is here. He came to Superior. We got acquainted, and we both had a kind of a burden for a ministry in Superior, so we did a little collaboration and put out a little paper for 2 or 3 issues. It never flew very high. And when we first started talking about it, we tried to figure out some kind of a little name to get it. And since we were living in Superior, we thought to call it the Superior Christian. But the more we thought of calling it the Superior Christian and putting our names at the bottom, the more we decided that might not be the most appropriate way to present ourselves to the community. So I don't remember what we did call it, but it wasn't Superior Christian. I mentioned a little bit ago about an incident when I saw John when it looked like he wasn't going to make it back from the Bible camp down by Porvenir to the hospital here in Chula Vista. He and I had gone down and we'd worked, and we hadn't taken enough food that we would plan to have our supper at the camp. We were going into a restaurant in Ensenada. Well, we got in the truck, and John started driving toward Ensenada, and he said, you know, I don't know whether I feel like driving into Ensenada or not. Why don't we just stop here at San Antonio de los Minos at a little restaurant there and have our supper? So that's what we did. We got back to the Bible camp, and, well, first let me say that as we drove through Tijuana on the way down, he didn't get gas. That's before he had the newer pickup. And he was going to get gas in Ensenada when we went down there for supper that evening. But we didn't go to Ensenada, and there was no gas station at this little roadside place called San Antonio de los Minos. So we got back to camp, and a neighbor lady and her family that had been involved, had been reached by the ministry of the camp, was there. The caretaker had picked the corn, that was done, and she had an old Holstein cow, and she had come down with her children and cut a lot of that for fodder and had it laying there. And when we got back from supper that evening, John suggested that maybe I could help her get that fodder on the pickup and take it to her place, which was up near the little village of Porvenir, also where there was a gas station. And I said to John, do you want me to go on into Porvenir and get some gas? No, he said, we'll just get some Ensenada in the morning when we start out. I went to bed and went to sleep. John wasn't feeling good. He went to bed, but he couldn't sleep, and he couldn't stay down, so he got up. And finally, about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, he called me and told me that he was having problems. Here we were, 2 o'clock in the morning, not enough gas to get back to Tijuana or to Chula Vista. Fortunately, Salvador had come down that evening. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, we were out there, he and I, siphoning gas out of his bag to put into John's pickup to get him out of Mexico and back to the hospital here on this side of the border. John was in serious trouble. I got him to the hospital. I called Gladys. She came. His doctor came. The doctor told me later that it's just about the end of the journey. And if we hadn't have gotten him out of there into the hospital and under care when we did, it probably would have been. But Sal came, we got gas, we put it in the pickup, I got him here, and he's still here.
How stubborn I am.
I have a little idea. We've had some great times, and we love each other, and Dorothy and I love Gladys and John and the family. We were putting out this little paper, you know. Well, that was an effort. But later on, John moved away from Superior, I moved away from Superior. I think it was 1956, I was called to a church in the San Gabriel Valley up by Los Angeles, and we had heard from John and Gladys that he had just very recently come to Riverside. And when we came through on our way to the San Gabriel Valley area, we stopped to visit them. He started a church in the front room of a little house. I don't remember the address, but we looked you up and had a little time together. And in a matter of, 8 or 10 years, it grew from the front room of your little house to a congregation of hundreds. Had a lovely plant. Then he got involved in this Bible camp down here, and the tenacity with which this man pursues a dream of his sort of reminds me of one of the verses in one of Edgar Guest's poems, when he said, somebody said it couldn't be done, but he, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't, but how does it go? Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he started right in with a bit of a grin on his face. If he doubted, he hit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. That pretty well describes John Kyle. God bless you, my brother. We bless you.